at Mertech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 22nd in the year of our Lord 2025. Let me just go ahead and click over here, Mertech on Rumble. Okay, there we go. All right, this is my Rumble channel. This is the video we're working on tonight, episode 1723. Let's go ahead and click on this live stream here and pause that. Let me go ahead and close out the chat and slide down here and click the show more button to expand out the description box. Okay, we've got information from ACLJ Sekulow, Doug in Exile, Glenn Beck, X22 report, but I'm going to start off with our news update appetizer, Wendy Bell. I believe this is starting off right after her Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, you know what? I think we're seeing the trend as the Democrats, as the deep state, as the communist, Marxist, progressive, whatever you want to call them, on the left are really feeling the squeeze, and they're doing anything they can to control the story. It is all about your perception. It is not about reality. It is about creating for you a storyline that makes you feel a certain way. It's all very psychological. It's all very slimy. Because to be honest with you, when you are a good person and you stand for good values and you care about other people and you're not corruptible and you're a hard worker and you love your country and you love your family and you cherish God, you don't need a storyline. You don't need optics. You don't need fireworks and sparklers and a wind machine and a made-for-TV production. You don't need ghost phones, pseudonyms, shell companies, and family members helping you out. You don't need the media running 24/7 interference for you. And you don't need deep, dark pockets to fund your malevolent agenda. You just don't. You go out, you do your job, you do it to the best of your ability, and if you're good at it, everybody does better. People see your progress and they vote you back. And if you don't, well, probably your time should be short-lived. And that's the way it goes. What you're getting right now is such a farcical presentation. And I noticed it with two separate polls. Americans' trust in Republicans hits a record low. That was a headline I saw today. I didn't even do it the dignity and the justice of reading into the poll, because I believe polls as much as I believe science, as much as I believe the CDC to give me factual information, as much as I believe the Metropolitan Police Department in DC for not fudging the crime data to make it look as though numbers are going down. The same way I trusted the Biden administration as they crowed about these glowing job numbers, as you and I are sitting 12 cars deep in a McDonald's drive-through wondering, where's all the workers? Where'd everybody go? And then they're telling you, oh my gosh, all these jobs created. Oh, yeah, about that. Yeah, well, yeah, maybe it wasn't that many. We made it up. I'm tired of it. But when the polls start to tell you, my heavens, there is such remarkable momentum going the way of the Democrat Party, you're like, oh, so I guess No Kings was a much bigger fail than we had imagined. That's the only reason why Harry Enton would come out with this new Gallup polling that shows this is truly remarkable. Literally 24 hours after he told us yesterday that Donald Trump, when compared to his first term, the first 20 days of a government shutdown back in his first term, that his approval, his favorability this go round was actually going up and not down. Now, with the turn of one day's calendar page, all of a sudden, lo and behold, it's a totally different story. People are so hot for Democrats. They can't wait to sign up. They're going out there, and people who don't say they're Democrat, well, they lean Democrat, and the numbers are really amazing. In fact, if this continues, I'm thinking the Republicans are going to have a really hard time keeping control of the House. In what world do you believe that? just because Gallup puts lipstick on a pig and they want you to believe that it is all that. You don't have to fall for it. Come on. Why would anybody look at today's Democrat Party and be like, honey, I think we need to be a part of that? You wouldn't. This is the party that wants you to pay out the wazoo in taxes for projects that never benefit you, that grease their pockets, that fund a bunch of pet projects, that then come back in a circle through NGOs and lo and behold, end up in their reelection coffers. Funny how that works, right? You guys, you're the party of Obamacare, right? The Affordable Care Act. Everybody needs to have health care, even criminal illegal aliens and all sorts of others who broke the law to get into this country. And they want you to pay $200 billion to make that happen. Why would you vote Democrat? This is the party that believes in human rights. Human rights for everybody. Nobody is illegal. That's just terrible. Well, are you for the rights of the unborn? Well, yeah, no. Who wants to vote for that? The party of toxic masculinity. The party that believes that if you're a dude, you could be a chick and invade their spaces, steal their trophies, and basically rewrite history and biology. Who wants that? Who wants to be a part of the party that is all about resistance, resisting the democratically elected president of the United States, who, by the way, is doing a hell of a job. But Gallup wants you to believe, no, forget all that. Forget the closed border. Forget the 500,000 criminal illegals that this administration has already arrested, rounded up, prosecuted, and bye-bye, gotten out of our country. Forget all of that. Forget the stories about trade and the $15 billion that we're missing out on every single day because Democrats are holding the United States government hostage for a bunch of games, right? Do you really believe that people are dying to go be Democrat? Of course not. It's desperation. It is all about optics. It's all about you believing something more than you trust your instincts. Don't believe your eyes. Don't pay attention to what you see. Don't listen to what's happening on the streets. Don't pay attention to that. We're here to tell you what the real story is. And the real story is Democrats are super duper popular. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're entering that critical phase, one of the last stops on that long journey through awakening, where enough people finally pop out of their hibernation, out of the trance of complete brainwashing, propaganda, deception, and say, dear God, I can't believe I fell for it. And you can feel very small.
Are you kidding me right now?
It's okay. We've all been there. Everything the lunatics on the left have hurled to try to kill Donald Trump as a political force and to kill him literally has failed. They tried to frame him as a Russian spy. They twice impeached him over nonsense. They tried to throw him in prison for life and bankrupt his businesses. They smeared him as racist. And finally, on 2 separate occasions, they literally tried to assassinate him. Everything they have tried has failed. Has failed. And now they're forced to defend Antifa, Hamas, drug cartels, criminal illegal aliens, human traffickers, pet projects, climate nonsense, box-checking insanity. All it costs you money and takes away from your God-given peace of mind. So I'm going to ask you, do you believe your gut? You trust your instincts? Do you feel when you go outside the difference today versus the last 4 years? And now when you look in the mirror and you consider that, why on earth would you ever believe any of these people who tell you otherwise?
Yep.
Again, well, you shouldn't. And they know it. And it is glorious. In fact, when we come back,
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there and move on. That's just the first segment right after her Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, there's like 2 hours and 40 minutes of this video left, and the link is in the description box below. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio.
Back.
This is the video I shared with you. I'm following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's get back here to our video. And here we go. I do want to give a shout out here to some people. Right there, Kat Aru just started following my channel. Griff GK42 just started following my channel. Annie 87 Flowers just started following my channel. Crims 63 just started following my channel. Slell Reddy just started following my channel. H. Flores Jr. 1948 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, Debbie BS reposted my video 1722 from last night. Debbie BS and Masonic 13 gave me a comment on my video 1722. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 505C, 506A, 506B, and 506C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I greatly appreciate that. I love to read your input, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. All right, let's get started. Let's get into this. Interesting news from American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow. Jack Smith's shocking attack against Ted Cruz. Can you imagine that? Let's go ahead and take a look at this and see what that's all about. Oh, okay, I don't think the video's coming through on this, so let me go ahead and refresh. I don't think the video's coming through. Okay, let me get the screen pulled up for you. Sorry about that. Sometimes this happens with Rumble. The video comes through, but the audio doesn't. So let me jump
Jack
back over
Smith
here and get
has been caught again, spying, searching, attempting to, and you got to give it up. Sometimes you got to give it up to some big tech. And AT&T said, sorry, Jack, you're not going to get Ted Cruz's phone records. And we don't even really know why they did, but they did not do it, but we know for a fact that he was searching for it.
So what we've got here now is a 9th U.S. senator that Jack Smith was attempting to subpoena the phone records from. We know that at least with 8 of them, it's reported he was able to get them. That was Senator Marsha Blackburn, Senator Johnson, Haggerty, Hawley, Loomis, Lindsey Graham, Dan Sullivan, and Tommy Tuberville, as well as a sitting member of the House of Representatives, Representative Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania.
That's why Tommy Tuberville's like, I'm going to be governor.
That's right.
Enough of this.
Now we're hearing that, and Axios got the scoop last night, that Ted Cruz was also targeted. The twist here is they subpoenaed these phone records, including text messages, voicemail information, all of this, yet AT&T did not comply with the subpoena. That opens up a lot more questions, and I know, Jordan, we're going to get into that in the next segment, but the fact that he at least was not, his information was not transmitted to the special counsel's office because they decided not to comply.
I think it's even interesting that they did not comply, which means the other organizations that did comply
were afraid that if they didn't comply, they would be sued in court.
Yeah.
So what AT&T did was basically call their bluff. And what happened, it looks like Jack Smith was really on a fishing expedition. He didn't have enough on any of these people to actually get a warrant. He was saying
this wasn't a murder.
He was trying anybody and everybody who was basically a well-known name that you might see on Fox News or someone who got very connected to one of the voter issues in their state.
AT&T, at least from the reporting, by not complying, their general counsel thought it was a better move to call the bluff and the risk being on the other side. Sanctions, contempt of court, the list goes on to fight it.
If they were in control, could really make AT&T's life not pleasant.
Right.
I mean, you can regulate companies in a pretty nasty way. So it was interesting. They said, we're going to stand on the side of the consumer.
Why is it even information that we're just getting, but also the full context here? Maybe we need to give a breakdown. I see some comments coming in going, I don't even know what y'all are talking about.
The Biden administration strategically waited to start pursuing investigations against President Trump and trying to indict him until later in the Biden term. And we had that famous raid on Mar-a-Lago, which was related to classified documents. And then the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, appointed a special counsel to handle investigations into the former president at the time and looked into both trying to get charges on the classified documents case out of Florida and then out of D.C., related to January 6th, trying to tie him into this conspiracy, making it some sort of obstruction charge at the president because he didn't do enough to stop people on January 6th. So that's what this all stems from. And this Arctic Frost investigation was related to the January 6th information.
Again, Arctic Frost is like a code name.
FBI code name for their investigation. You think about Crossfire Hurricane.
I know, we got to give
Razor.
Crossfire Razor.
Yeah, that was the Mike Flynn one.
When you hear Arctic Frost, we have to give people some background.
So this was the part of that investigation. He started targeting phone records of sitting U.S. senators and one sitting member of Congress. He did this through subpoena, and we know that this was not subpoenaed until 2023, even though the records he was seeking were back in 2021, right around the time of January 6th. It was like January 4th through 7th. He wanted all text messages, ingoing and outgoing phone calls, voicemail data, things of that nature is what he was trying to obtain on these sitting presidents, as though also that seeing a phone call come in or going out to the president, another member of Congress, would be abnormal for a sitting member of Congress with the president that is of their same party.
Well, I just wanted to ask real quickly, because I'm sure people just want to get this straight in their head. Every one of these members, was that the same date frame?
It was the same time frame, yes, January 4th through the 7th of 2021.
This was connected to
January 6th.
January 6th, and exactly what they were looking for by using geolocation and who they were speaking to. Is were they talking to the president? Were they with the president? Were they in the White House? Basically, you could find out who someone is meeting with in any of the buildings in D.C. or have at least 90% chance of being correct just by knowing their location and time, because you can kind of play into, okay, what was happening at that day. So you imagine if this is an attempt to spy on yet another U.S. senator. They did it on 8, and now we know they've done it on 9th. If I was a U.S. senator and I was in Senate during that time period, I'd be going to the FBI right now and say, like, okay, Bongino Cash, tell me, like, how compromised did I get?
Where did we get? Yeah.
Because no one ever told me about this, and they may not be the ones you know by name. They're on TV as much, but that's certainly who they targeted.
And this is also an attack on a co-equal branch of government. They are looking at this in a way that we have not seen before, but also we see that Senator Marsha Blackburn is actually calling on the DOJ to investigate this. She has sent a letter to the Attorney General requesting an investigation. But I think another question that this brings up, we know that at least for the first 8, that the phone companies appeared to comply. They gave the information to the special counsel's office.
Kind of feels like the social media world where they felt pressure, like Jordan said.
Right.
Pressure.
Well, if the special counsel with the Department of
government
Justice
starts
comes
calling.
and you're a regulated industry, you'd think that your general counsel at first is going to be like, we should probably comply with the
Give
government.
them what they want.
AT&T, in the case of Ted Cruz, it appears did not comply with the subpoena, which means that someone in the general counsel's office, at least this is what we can maybe infer from this, looked at this and thought about consumer protections, public relations, as well as the separation of powers, and thought, this doesn't necessarily seem like something we should comply with. That puts the company at jeopardy of sanctions, contempt of court. They would then have to expend money to fight that in court. We don't know if Jack Smith just dropped it at that point, or if he filed motions to compel, or if there was a motion filed by AT&T. Hopefully that will get reported out, because that's the most fascinating angle.
Was it just a fishing expedition that they knew they probably couldn't defend in court? So let's just see how many companies will send it over.
Jack Smith didn't fight this, that also shows that it was a fishing expedition.
And then we don't know how many other companies did what Ted Cruz's did now. Now we need to learn that. So I would ask the U.S. senators to go and check to see, was there a time when your service provider was contacted in this time period, so January 4th to 7th, about information from January 4th to 7th? Does it match? Did that happen? And did you just not respond? Because then we'd know. I think if they did respond, that would have been in the information that we already have seen. Like if they already got the information they're requesting, those are the initial 8 plus the member of the House. I mean, but it is, again, it's the worst of the worst, because they are just spying to spy for political damage. This has nothing to do with U.S. national security. So turning on our own elected leaders, I mean, that is the worst of the FBI. That's the worst of the deep state intelligence agencies and policing forces coming together and using their power to try and intimidate elected members of Congress who are supposed to be running the country because they are voted in by the people of the country.
Absolutely amazing, folks. I mean, yet with this and everything else that you've heard that's come out about Jack Smith, Comey, Bolton, Donald Trump is the monarch. Donald Trump is destroying our democracy. Yeah, their democracy is you do what we say, and that's that. That is their democracy that Donald Trump is trying to destroy. Okay, clicking on the Rumble link, it takes us over here to American Center for Law and Justice. I am following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, jumping back here. Next, we have some great information from Doug in Exile. Why 2026 could change everything. That sounds interesting. Let's see what he has to say. All right. Sorry. Again, it seems like Rumble is not allowing the audio to come through. I have to refresh. Okay, let me get on this video again and start it.
If you're not a member, I think it's 10 on. It's kind of all borough first. Watch this.
What I've been warning about, what I've been warning Republicans about, because they love to say, oh, we're owning the libs. No, you're taking a hammer to the 2027 and 2029 version of yourself, a ball-peen hammer, and you're hammering yourself in the forehead. Like, the things they are doing now will be used against them by a progressive president or an independent megalomaniac who is a billionaire who becomes president of the United States. They are setting precedents.
But all of that is fantasy. He just made all of that up. You're taking a ball-peen hammer for what you're doing today and what you're saying today. Someone's going to run on in 2026 and 2028, a radical leftist billionaire celebrity, like a Mark Cuban, let's say. No, America has a short memory. We're going to get into the shutdown also later in this thing. Look, the moment the government opens back up, everyone's going to forget the shutdown like that. If Trump doesn't market and point to, I brought peace to the Middle East, everyone will completely forget it within 48 hours. The news cycle happens so fast now. So he's acting like everyone has this photographic memory. It's not true. What they're doing now, the No King's Day, it's already forgotten. It's been 48 hour No King's Day. No one cares. It did nothing.
For an all-powerful president, which they're fine right now because it's their guy doing it. But as you write in Axios, they're setting precedents that rip to shreds the constitutional norms that they...
Oh, wrong. Oh, so wrong. Now, I got in this exact argument with my buddy who leans a little more liberal than me last night. He said, Doug, his fear is that Trump is shredding the Constitution and that he's setting a precedent that the Democrats, are going to be able to use to justify all their evil. I go, no, the Democrats started this. That video I had to take down because I misquoted Caroline Leavitt. I said it was a new video with Barack Obama, and really it was July 23rd with apologies. Removed that video, made an announcement down in the posts. But this started in 2016 with Obama. Nothing like that has happened before. So don't say the tit for tat, the back and forth is what's called Trump's revenge. No, the Democrats set a standard, a legal standard in 2016. They went after a political opponent. They framed him. They used the FBI and the CIA against Trump. And now in our calling that out and prosecuting that, that is not mere empty political lawfare. That is the Constitution working. And remember, no one complained back then. Not one Democrat said, I resign in protest of going after political opponent. I resign in protest of smashing the Constitution. Joe Scarborough repeated all their lies. He was part of the lie chamber for Obama that went after Trump, and then the lie chamber of Biden that went after Trump. Joe Scarborough himself saying Biden was sharp as a tack. So now if we push back, they're going, he's shredding the Constitution. No, son, the Constitution, if Kamala Harris won the election in November, the Constitution would be gone. So even if Trump has no respect for the Constitution, I'm going to give him that. I'm not saying it's true. I'm going, even if I grant you that Trump has no respect for the Constitution or tradition or manners, even if he says burn it all down, the only reason why you have a Constitution going forward from November forward for the rest of this country's history is because this man won an election. It would have been gone. The Democrats would have packed the Supreme Court, expanded the state, edited the Constitution to mean whatever they mean for it. Your Constitution would be, so for any of the constitutions, I'm talking about the naysayers, the people that hate Trump, David French, Thomas Massey, Jonah Goldberg, these big kind of center guys that are trying to criticize Trump as I'm a constitutionalist. Your Constitution would be gone if this man didn't win. Also to Jonah Goldberg, this man got Jewish hostages released. If Kamala Harris won, your hostages would still be stuck in a cave somewhere. You owe this man a long leash, including raising the debt. I've got fiscal conservatives coming after me going, Doug, I can't believe Trump's just another rhino raising the... You don't suddenly go fiscally conservative on this guy when he's needs a long leash to reform the government from what the last 4 years did. You don't suddenly constrain him with a budget. It's like if you start a business and you take out a $200,000 loan to start a donut shop, and then someone comes in and goes, your donut shop on day one, your donut shop only made $150. We need that loan back. It's time to fiscally conserve. It's time to drop that loan. And he goes, no, I need that loan to get on my feet. That's what Trump is doing. Sorry for the rant. Let's go.
They've gone around yelling about for 50 years, whether it's, Article 1 powers like we did back when we were in power there to say, hey, we've got the right to balance the budget, or whether it's you pick whatever they were once champions of that they've abandoned. They're hurting themselves.
No, we're not. We have not abandoned the Constitution. And the Constitution, by the way, is completely meaningless if it does not have a Congress defending it and writing laws. And Congress will not write laws. They won't do their job and get together. So that creates a power vacuum. And then the executive branch, the president, I don't care if it's Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, the executive branch comes in and does a bunch of executive orders because they don't have to get it passed through Congress. They just buy rid of a pen. It'll be there for the 4 years while they're ruling, and then it goes away. The president has become Congress. But remember, it's Congress not doing their job, including Joe Scarborough back when he was working.
Yep.
You didn't do your job. You created this mess.
This will come back to haunt them.
It's not coming back to haunt anything. We're going to win. We're going to keep winning. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson on the shutdown and versus the protest.
These rallies we described as the Hate America rallies because there is no better description. Look at who was involved.
I love the great branding. Mike Johnson's getting into the Trump a way of doing things. He said the Hate America rally. That's like calling a name and making it stick. That's a good brand. The Hate America rally. I heard some of you say the No Kings rally is the No Brains rally. I called it the No Hygiene rally.
Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats went out there to participate. They stood arm in arm, side by side, with some of the most radical groups that have ever assembled on U.S. soil. They openly advertised that they were co-sponsored. They were Soros-funded, and they were co-sponsored by the Communist Party USA, the Young Communist League of New York, and all the other radical groups. They're out there championing that issue. Now,
this is why Joe Scarborough, I love the guy in a clown. That's kind of self-referential. That's an accurate costume, the guy in the clown suit over at the No Kings rally. But Mike Johnson is actually directly addressing Joe Scarborough. What's going to happen in 26 and 28? Who exactly is going to be the Democrat guy that runs and has the credibility to impugn Trump's character for what he's doing right now? They have nothing because they have chummed up with radicals, outed formal Communist Party of USA helped fund this rally.
Look, listen to these people's own language, Sean, what they stand for. It is completely the opposite of what America was founded upon. They don't like living here. They don't like capitalism or the free enterprise system. They don't like the founding principles of the country.
They hate families. They hate Christians.
Individual freedom and limited government and the rule of law and peace through strength and fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity. They're against all of that. And they go out and they put out these radical messages, violent messages. They want to call for the murder of a president who's already survived 2 failed assassination attempts, and they're mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. These people can be evaluated and judged on their own actions. And I think everybody in the country can see exactly what's going on here.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Tell you, Mike Johnson has definitely seemed like he's grown a spine here in this last year or so. But with that being said, let me show you that this video does come from Doug in Exile. I'm about halfway through it. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what's next with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck had some interesting things to say. And, you know, I might have to share some information from him tomorrow again because he's on a roll. But as it is this the key to understanding Trump's plan for the economy? Well, let's find out what he has to say about that.
Before I start this on gold, I want to ask you, what is Donald Trump? Is Donald Trump a guy who likes to cut the spending? No. He believes in debt, right? But what he believes in more than debt is growing the bottom line. So you grow your way out of things. So keep that in mind as I'm trying to make sense of gold. And what I'm going to share with you is just a theory. I think I might be right on this, but I don't know. Okay. Gold is rocketing. You know, it's now almost, what is it, $43 or $4,400 an ounce today. And I've always told you, you don't want to see a world with $5,000 an ounce gold. That is, when $5,000 an ounce happens, that means the trust is going away for the financial system and the financial markets. The dollar is starting to weaken, and the world is sending a signal. We don't trust any of this anymore. Now, that may be true. That may be true. But let me take you to another place, because maybe something that is happening that doesn't fit that script, because you're dealing with something new. You're dealing with Donald Trump. So I think behind all of it, there is a new strategy that is taking shape in Washington. Congress, doesn't have the stomach to cut any of the spending. And Donald Trump believes the opposite, grow your way out, okay? So that's a recipe for deficit that is really quite frightening. But there is someone, and I think it's Bessent, who is finding a way to pull down the deficit without the usual political bloodshed. One of the misunderstood tools in that strategy is something that you're going to be amazed that it hasn't happened before. It is the revaluation of gold. Right now, the government values its gold reserves. We have 260 million troy ounces. That's what they say officially. We might have none. But we have 260 million troy ounces. But we only value it at $35 an ounce. Why? Because that's the price FDR in the 1930s set gold at and said it's worth $35 an ounce. That hasn't changed. So on paper, that means the government, all of our gold that we have on paper, the whole gold hoard, is only worth $9 billion. So wait a minute. But the market price today is almost $4,500, which would make that $9 billion actually worth $1.1 trillion. Now think about that. The United States is sitting on a $1 trillion asset, and we don't even count it. Why does this matter? I want you to think of your home. Imagine you're going into a bank and you want to go buy a car, okay? And you have your salary and you're in debt and you're just barely making it. But your home on paper has only been valued at $5,000 because when your parents bought it all those years ago, it was $5,000, and now you're sitting here and it hasn't changed in value. It has in reality, but you're still counting it as the bank and saying, yeah, well, my grandfather or my father paid $5,000 for this, and so it's worth $5,000. The bank would know, no, it's not. It's worth $1 million today. What changes if this is called mark to market? This is a usual thing. You mark the price to what the market value is. Your price of your house goes down. You are poorer on paper because the value of your house has gone down and it's marked to market. If the price has gone from $35 an ounce to $4,500 an ounce, then you mark to market and everything changes. Suddenly, if that's your house, $5,000 to $1 million, now you can buy that new car. You walk into the bank and you're like, I'm going to buy a $50,000 car. And they're like, well, let me see your assets. And you're like, oh, well, you have a house that's been paid off and it's worth $1 million. Where yesterday it was worth $5,000. Today it's worth $1 million because it's actually worth that if you sold it. And so the bank goes like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, sure. Here's 50 grand. Go buy that car. Suddenly your profile looks different overnight. Okay. That is what I believe is coming in America. I believe they're going to revalue gold. That without raising taxes, without cutting a single program, it would instantly improve the nation's balance sheet. Our debt to asset ratio would shift dramatically. Have you noticed in the last year, everybody's like, their debt to asset ratio is way out of whack, and they're now 125%, whatever it is. Okay, that would change. The dollar would legitimately appear to be stronger, and the deficit, at least on paper, would shrink. Now, add to that, again, what Donald Trump believes, and you may not agree with it, but he believes I can grow the economy. So you combine that with the H-1B visa fees, you do the tariffs expected, to bring in money, and then also the expected $8 to $12 trillion in foreign capital investments that are flowing into the United States. If all of that is real, suddenly the picture doesn't look quite so desperate because it looks like we are growing again, and we actually would be growing again. The debt doesn't shrink by cutting. It shrinks by growing. It shrinks by growing the economy and expanding the economy beneath it. That's Trump's mark. That's always what he's believed in. So while I've been sitting here going, you don't want $5,000 gold, you don't, but it also might be a good thing. Let me give you this. There's more. Washington is floating the idea, and Mike Lee got hammered for this, but this is a Besant idea. Mike Lee is floating the idea of selling off portions of vast federal portfolio. We have all this land. These are not national parks. We have millions of acres of unproductive and unused territory. I have known this from central bankers for 20 years, that they actually have said, we should sell the national parks. You know how much the national parks. I don't want you selling the national parks. What are you talking about? No, we're not selling the national parks. But that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about cutting the inefficiency out of every department and taking land that is unusable and sellable, that the government is holding and doesn't need to hold, selling that land, okay, which would allow us to build more houses, expand, et cetera, and increase the bottom line on the ballot sheet. Suddenly, with all of this, the pressure valves are opened up, okay? Also put in here, nobody seems to be panicking about the government shutdown. And what is the government shutdown doing? What is Besant hoping he gets an opportunity to do? Cut. So now you're expanding with gold, the possibility of selling federal land at some point. You're bringing in $12 trillion of investment. You're getting the raw earth minerals from Venezuela and from South America and elsewhere in the world. You've solved our military peace problem. We're no longer the world's policeman, so we're not having to do all of that stuff, which is a drain on blood and treasure. All of a sudden, you're starting to see that America is actually shoring itself up. So what looks like chaos right now may actually be a controlled implosion of a broken system. Because remember, this is exactly what the left was going to do. The left through the WEF and the Great Reset, they wanted to implode the system, but they had a safety net that we were going to fall into, and that was a global world order. Donald Trump doesn't believe in the global world order, but he does believe we are in trouble. He knows that. He has a different idea. I think we might be seeing a re-anchoring of America's finances in hard assets, real productivity. And if Besant and the president can pull this off, we may be watching the birth of the building of a new foundation of a new financial order, one where, you know, we're regrounding ourselves in value that's actually real. It's dangerous. If confidence breaks, if the terrorists who are already here, thank you, Joe Biden, manage to disrupt the perception of reality, if we start having, you know, real trouble on our streets and we go unstable, then the illusion flips. The revaluation becomes a revelation that even gold cannot cover the sins of a government that has just not paid attention for this long. And, you know, there's no pretending that. But if we can hold together this fragile unity in our country long enough, and they can revalue the system and rejigger the system, keep your eye on gold. It may be the canary in the coal mine. It may be this is real trouble. But remember, not every alarm means disaster. It's how you react to it. I would have told you 4 years ago, and I did, when we said we're gonna kick Russia and China off the SWIFT system. That's a really bad idea, because you have no plan, you have no replacement for the SWIFT system. You're now taking the assets of a sovereign country and saying, yeah, we can do that. That will drive the price of the dollar down. People will sell our reserve currencies. And the only thing they had as backup was a global new financial order that none of us wanted. Notice we're not talking about CBDCs. We're talking about gold. This government is talking, Donald Trump is talking about rebalancing and growing, not a global world order. So it could be that the price of gold is, just a fire that could burn out of control, as it would have just a few years ago. And it still may. But it also may be that the rise in gold and what's happening with Donald Trump is a backfire, is a, when you set fire in a forest fire and you burn back into it to put it out, this may be a fire that we are setting that could put all of this out. This heat may actually forge something new.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and for over 30 years, I've been assisting patients to move through their cancer journey using integrated protocols and supporting the whole being. In the Healing Blueprint, we will look at the foundation. We will look at your immune health. What can we do to support it? We will look at root causes. Why is cancer taking place? It doesn't just happen for a reason. There's always a driver. Are we looking at chemicals, heavy metals, pathogens, nutritional deficiencies? Are we looking at traumas? We want to explore all of that and unpack that for your clarity so that you know what's going on in your own body and you are empowered. I want you to be empowered. And so can you imagine moving from exhaustion to energy, to have that optimum, just enjoying life and living life fully? And also having the tools that you need in order to be able to move from diagnosis to remission. Or even better, the best cancer to get is the one you actually never get. That is the best cancer. So prevention is key. And I want to be able to give you that clarity, that confidence, and that healing roadmap towards remission, prevention, and also just feeling that optimum well-being. So please join me at the Healing Blueprint. I'm so excited to have you be part of this journey.
All right. Interesting information there that I wanted to share with you. Let's move on. And Glenn Beck, getting back to Glenn Beck, I share a lot from X22 Report. And he talks pretty much about the same thing. How Donald Trump is trying to reconfigure our monetary system so that it is more stable. Inflation, they think it's great that inflation is down below 3%. You mean it's okay if prices continue to go up every year, 3% every year, and sometimes it goes up more, like 20% during Biden's administration? But that's okay, 3% price increase on everything year after year? I don't think so. Okay, but let's get to X22 Report. D's are trapped in the shutdown. Trump says the 9th peace deal is coming, right on schedule. Okay, well, let's take a listen and see what X22 Report has to say.
Just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech, fake news, the puppet masters. You can see right now Trump has all the leverage, and the D's, they are all trapped in the shutdown. Remember, from the very, very beginning, Trump, his team on the Senate, they could have used the nuclear option, just like they used the nuclear option to get his people confirmed. He could have used the nuclear option to basically stop the shutdown. The question is, why didn't he use the nuclear option? We've always known it was there because it traps the D's in all this. Sometimes you must show the people the truth. And now the D's, they're trapped in this shutdown. The No Kings ridiculous protest is over. And now they're like, how do we get out of this? Do we just say, hey, we give and that's it? They're trapped in this shutdown, and the entire country, the fake news, knows that they're responsible for it. And every day that passes, it just gets worse and worse for them. So once again, who has the leverage? Trump has the leverage. Now, we know the deep state players, the central bankers, we know that they're going to plan to try to create as much chaos as possible. And I do believe this is why, we mentioned it yesterday, this is why Biden and Obama, when they were speaking, this is why Obama said we have some time. Because, again, like we said, lawfare does not work on Trump. You can't scare Trump away with indictments. You can't scare him away with impeachments. You can't scare him away with these ridiculous things. Now, they already tried these things, so they can't use those things again. They could try, but they know they're not going to work. So they have to change things up, just like they had to change it up during the election of 2024. They knew they didn't have COVID. They knew that Kamala wasn't going to be able to bring them over the finish line, even if they cheated with everything that they had, because it would look absolutely ridiculous and people would catch on and people would notice that they're cheating. So they had to change up strategy, and they had to say, okay, once Trump is in office, we're going to have to delay everything that he's doing, make sure he can't deport the illegals that we brought in, and try to stop him every step of the way. Now, if we can't stop him and the delays don't work as we get closer and closer to the midterms, well, then we're going to have to take this to the next step. And we're going to have to actually push riots. We're going to actually have to push a war. Now, I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they knew exactly the playbook that they were going to use. They know that this is all they have left. And really think about it. They're going to try to continually delay, but as they're doing this, they're actually showing the American people who the corrupt judges are. And every time Trump brings charges, and I don't mean him specifically, the DOJ, as they bring charges against Comey, against Letitia James, against Jack Smith, against Brennan, and yes, Brennan was also referred to the DOJ, charges against Bolton. As they do all of this, these are for the lesser crimes, lying to Congress, lying on forms. Because once again, the more people on the lower end with these lower crimes, remember, these aren't the only crimes, you can actually see how the lawfare team reacts. You can see what strategy that they use to get out of this. They also can watch the judges. Who do they appoint to basically oversee these cases? Let's see how they do with these lower level cases. This is going to give you a very clear picture in the direction that Trump has to head in. Because if he notices, if every single one of these people get off and none of these people are convicted for their crimes, Trump knows right off the bat, well, we can't move forward with the treasonous crimes because these people, they're not going to get convicted. Even if half of them get off, it's still a problem.
Yep.
And I do believe with lawfare, they're going to try to use whatever method they have to try to get out of the trials. I mean, Comey, his team is doing that right now. I do believe Bolton's going to follow suit. Or if that doesn't work, he might have a bigger problem because I think his wife was leaking out the classified information. So this is going to be a big problem for Bolton. And Brennan is on deck. I do believe Adam Schiff is going to be coming up very, very soon. And I think we're going to see his case referred to the DOJ. Or maybe there's a grand jury right now looking at everything that he's done. And they might come out and say, yeah, you know what? He's indicted. Now, as Trump does this, the deep state is watching very, very closely. And they understand that these are just the low-level type of cases. Trump hasn't even reached the point where he's going after Hillary, Obama, Brennan, Comey for the treasonous crimes. This is just a low level. So the deep state players, they're being pushed into doing something. And I do believe what they're planning to do is, yes, number one is riots, of course. Number two, I do believe they're going to try to push World War III. Might even be the nuclear scare, the N-word, like Trump says. And Trump, he made an announcement today while he was having a press conference in the Rose Garden. He said that the 9th peace deal is coming. So he knows that he's going to have peace. He knows that the EU, NATO, they are the problem. He knows that he's going to have to trap them in all of this to actually usher in the peace deal. And I do believe he's going to use the same leverage that he used with Hamas, but not exactly like Hamas. Basically, he was able to get the hostages home, detach Hamas from the funding, leave them out in the cold. Iran can't support them anymore. Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. So basically, he shut all this down. Everything that Obama was trying to do, he shut down. And now Hamas is screwed. Now, they might try to fight back a little bit, but it looks like Trump is letting us know that these are probably just a couple of people within Hamas that are trying to fight back, but in the end, it's not going to work. And actually, we have Vance out in Israel saying that the ceasefire, the peace deal with Hamas is actually working. So everything is on schedule. The 9th peace deal is coming up. That is on schedule. And I do believe Trump, what he's doing right now, he's preparing the entire country, the entire world for what is coming. Because again, he's letting you know that, yes, he can have peace. Remember, he set up the narrative on purpose. He let everyone know, look, he stopped all these wars. He wants everyone to know, and he needs to make sure that everyone understands that he's not the warmonger. He is the peacemaker. He did this on purpose, letting everyone know that the 9th peace deal is coming. Why did he let everyone know that? Because he knows the deep state players, they're going to try to push war. And he wants everyone to know that he's going to have peace. So we're going to have the fake news. We're going to have the deep state players, the Ds. They're, the late night show people. They're all going to be pushing war. Trump, he's going to be pushing peace. And people are going to be very, very clear who the peacemaker is. And we're going to be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what happened out in California, because it looks like J.D. Vance was out there and they were doing some fire drills out there with weapons. I think it was the Navy, and some shrapnel hit a car. And what's very interesting is that Governor Newsom, he is going absolutely ballistic over a photo of a CHP cruiser allegedly hit by shrapnel. And it looks like, yeah, it hit the car. It's a little dented, but there was no outrage over police cars that were being burned, smashed during the BLM riots. So think about that for a second. Does that make any sense? Absolutely not. No. He's just out there pushing this, trying to use emotions on all this, but it's not working. People call him out on it right away. And we could see that the deep state players, they don't want the criminals behind bars. They want the criminals roaming the street. And we could see that this is exactly what was happening out in D.C. And what's very interesting is Edward Korstein, also known as Big Balls, the individuals that attacked him, they were set free by a judge. Now, remember, this individual was attacked not just by one, but by 10 attackers. And it looks like Jeanine Pirro is going after the other attackers. Patriot Oasis put this out and said, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro reveals that a rogue judge let the attacker of Edward Korstein go free 3 times before he nearly beat the Doge employee to death. After a felony attempted robbery conviction, after a violation of probation, the judge says, do better. And she's saying it's absolutely ridiculous. They need to lower the age from 15 to 14. And she wants the judges to stop coddling the repeat offenders. And she's absolutely right. Yeah. And she's going after other individuals, showing that, listen, these people that commit a crime, they need to be held accountable. And this is what Trump is doing across the country. He's cleaning up the crime, and he's doing it with the FBI. He's doing it with the DOJ. He's doing it with ICE, doing it with the National Guard. And he is now pre-positioning and getting the country ready for what the deep state has planned. And it's going to be very, very difficult for the deep state to kick this off, because if you don't have all the criminals running around, you don't have the illegals running around, and a lot of them have been swept up and put behind bars, it's going to make it very, very difficult for Antifa, their foot soldiers, to actually, these are the agitators, to push the agenda that the deep state players want to push. And you could see that out in LA, Karen Bass is pretty darn angry that more and more people are being arrested and deported. Mayor Karen Bass put this out and said, since the raids began, over 170 American citizens have been detained by federal agents without warrants, without probable cause, and without due process. Let that sink in. 170 U.S. citizens unlawfully detained in our own country. Stephen Miller responds and says, abject lies. Violent leftists have been arrested and charged with illegally obstructing federal law enforcement, a felony. Let that sink in. Open Borders Democrats have incited leftists to violently attack ICE. And yes, any citizen in this country who goes and picks up a rock, picks up eggs, picks up a bat, and tries to hit the officers, well, guess what? You're going to be arrested. You F around, you find out. And she left that entire part out. Imagine that. Can you imagine if she was walking down the street and she was hit in the head with a rock or an egg or a bat? Do you think she'd have that person arrested? Especially if it was MAGA. She would have that person arrested. Just like that. Anyone else would have that, or anyone else would press charges to have that person arrested. The same thing goes with the federal officers. So once again, they're lying as usual. And the other thing that's very interesting is that we know in the end, Trump and team, they're going to be releasing the Epstein files. And it seems that TMZ, they put out an exclusive story saying that a high-ranking White House official claimed that Trump was going to basically pardon Sean Diddy Combs. Well, it looks like the White House responded to this and said this is a complete lie. And they rejected the claims outright. Now, TMZ is sticking to their story, but the White House is saying, yeah, this is not happening whatsoever. And the question is, what would be the reason for Trump to pardon Sean Diddy Combs when he did all these things? It's like pardoning Epstein. Why would he do this? It makes no sense whatsoever. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that's really interesting, and I think this is going to tie into what the deep state players, the central bankers, the World Economic Forum, what they have planned moving forward. Now, we know that they're planning probably a war, most likely a riot. And I do believe to start the war, you need some type of attack. You need something to happen, because nobody just says, hey, let's go to war, and everyone agrees. There has to be some type of an event. Just like to start a riot. People just go on the street and start rioting. If you're going to want the riots to spread, you need some type of an event to actually push the people to riot. And we've seen this before. We saw it with George Floyd. The fake news really built this up. The D's really built this up. We saw it with Rodney King. We saw it all over the place. So I do believe that they're probably going to have some type of an event for World War III. And I do believe it's probably going to consist of cyber attacks and some other type of scare event while we have riots going on at the same time. And what's very interesting is we know I think maybe a week ago or so, we know that YouTube was having problems. And just yesterday, we know that Amazon's cloud service, AWS, had problems. Now, the cloud service just doesn't affect Amazon like we were discussing yesterday. It affects a lot more sites. So were they testing something to see if they could bring it down? Just like Cloudflare.
Now, just to interrupt here, that AWS, Amazon's web service, my kids were not able to do their schoolwork because of that. So I'm not sure how all that's connected. But because Amazon web service went down, my kids here in Indianapolis could not do their schoolwork. I guess it's somehow connected, some kind of, web connection there. But what he's saying is absolutely right. Let's continue.
That also is a centralized point that if that goes down, a lot of the sites have problems. So here are the sites that were affected. Unusual Whales put this out. Adobe Creative Cloud, Amazon, Apple Music, AT&T, Boost Mobile, ChatGPT, Chime, Coinbase, Delta Air, GoDaddy, Grubhub, HBO Max, Hinge, Hulu, IMDb, Instacart, Life360, Lyft, McDonald's, MyFitnessPal, Peloton, Reddit, Robinhood, Roku, Slack, Signal, Snapchat, T-Mobile, United Airlines, Venmo, Verizon, Wall Street Journal, Wordle, Xbox, Xfinity by Comcast, Zillow, Zoom. And there's a lot more other sites I didn't even mention. So that's a lot of sites. So think about what they're doing right now and think about what they might be planning. Because again, if you're going to bring down certain systems, you don't go to each one individually. You go to a central location where you bring down the central location that affects many, many sites. It's a lot easier to do that. And it's just very interesting that these things are happening right now as we're getting closer and closer to a peace deal, as Trump would say, with Ukraine and Russia. And as Trump is now taking the National Guard and pre-positioning them in many different locations. Because I do believe Trump is countering everything the deep state players are doing, and the deep state players are testing for what is coming. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. But you can see Trump, he is now going after the South American countries like Venezuela, like Colombia. And it seems that the Colombian president might have threatened Trump. Ryan Saavedra put this out and said, Colombia President Gustavo Petro appears to threaten President Trump, saying that if people cannot convince Trump to change, that it is time to get rid of Trump. Is he saying that it's time to assassinate him? How do you get rid of him?
Yeah.
The only way you can get rid of him is via an election. And that doesn't come up until 2028.
Right.
So how is he going to get rid of him? Is he threatening President Trump? Because it looks like he's in line with the deep state players. You have to remember, the deep state system is made up of all the cartels. The deep state system is made up of the intelligence agencies. Now, they have been cut off from the intelligence agency heads that are leading up the CIA, leading up the FBI, because, again, they've taken over. They're going through everything. They're not finished cleaning their agencies. But I think the other intelligence ops, they are now rogue, probably getting intelligence via Five Eyes. And we could see that, once again, all these players make up the deep state system, the criminal syndicate. And yes, you have many different levels of the criminal syndicate. You have Antifa on the lower level, along with the criminals, along with the illegals. Then on the level above that, you have all those people in the different states, the prosecutors, the AGs that Soros put into place on the state level, the city levels. And then moving up above that, and then you have those individuals in Congress, in D.C., in the House, and in the Senate. Then above that, you have those people that were in the FBI, that were in the intelligence community. But again, that is a little bit more difficult for them because Trump and team, they're getting rid of all these people. And then you have those people that are above that are either have been president, vice president. And yes, within the middle of this, you also have the fake news. You have to include them in all of this. And then you have the unelected people that are above that, the central bank, the World Economic Forum, Soros, you name it, that are funding all of this. So the deep state system, the criminal syndicate, is much, much deeper and wider than anyone could ever imagine. And a lot of the CEOs in Hollywood, yes, they're all involved in all of this. And you can see that a lot of these cartels that Trump is now going after, they're also part of it. And you can see that they're threatened. And in the end, I don't believe that they're going to be able to get rid of Trump. I think they might try because this is all they have left. They can't use lawfare. They can't impeach him. So all they have left is an assassination attempt, riots to try to storm the White House, and war. This is all they have left. And I do believe Trump, the Patriots, they know that this is what they're going to try to do. Now, what's very interesting is we have our first female prime minister in Japan that was elected. And her single most important test will be reversing the rate of migration into Japan. Hopefully, she is not corrupted. Hope she follows suit because the people want her to deliver. And again, I don't believe she was installed. I do believe that the people voted her in, and hopefully she does what she said she's going to do. But we'll see how this all plays out. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the deep state players to push war in the Middle East, it's completely and utterly falling apart. Trump and
I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I'm 21 minutes into this 1 hour and 5 minute video. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link here. But, you know, he always has great information. Okay, this is the video I shared with you, coming from X22 Report. I've given him thumbs up. I'm following his channel. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and let's take a look at the chats. I always like to copy the chats in. Got a few here from M41 Coco. I don't see Debbie BS. Usually she's in the chat box there. She must have something important to do tonight. But let's go ahead and copy these chats in and make them part of this video, because when this live stream is over, then that chat just kind of flies off into Never Never Land. Okay, let me do a quick refresh here. We've got, says we have 112 people watching, and I've got 6 thumbs up. So, you know, if I could get 106 of you to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, that would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, before I wrap this up, I do want to share some information from crypto.com. So, a little short ditty here.
Let's be clear, cryptocurrency is no longer emerging, it's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform.
They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there.
Want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again.
Okay, good information there. The link is in the chat box. It's also just below in the description box there. But getting back here, now these videos that I shared with you, let's come back over here. These videos that I shared with you, all them right there. All these videos here come directly from the producers. I have the links to the videos that I shared with you, as well as the links to the producer's channel. In other words, if you want to see what Doug in Exile, what other information he has, Doug in Exile is the producer of this video. The link to this channel is, you click on that, and it's going to take you to Doug in Exile. You know, it's kind of like magic. All right. Now, these videos that I've shared with you here are videos that I've posted on Mertech.com. In fact, right here is Doug in Exile, the video, ACLJ, right there. That's the video I shared from them. Also, Glenn Beck, right here's the video I shared from him. And down here, X22 Report is the video I shared with you from him. Now, I don't have time to share all this information with you because I have over 55 no-nonsense, common-sense, logic, and truth videos here at Mertech.com, and the link to Mertech.com is in the description box as well. So that's why I have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30. Now, in the past, I had a playlist I put together, but I've been having problems with that playlist where it just kind of freezes up. So I'm going to try something new and just give you information directly from one of the producers here that I promote at Mertech.com, Barry Cunningham. Right here. I'm going to share information from him tonight in my daily news wrap-up. So there we go, Barry Cunningham. So let me go ahead and get that set up for you. Go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30, and we'll go through some great information from Barry Cunningham. If you watched last night, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is who I shared last night, and that video that he had, the end of it, the video that I shared with him, was amazing information about the corruption in the 2020 election, particularly in Maricopa County, Arizona. So I've got some more great information that I'm going to share again tonight from Barry Cunningham. He knows what he's talking about. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. That's what I'm pushing here, folks. Information that the mainstream media and the deep state swamp aren't going to tell you. So please follow my channel. Give me a thumbs up. Take a break. Meet me back here at 9:30. In the meantime, I do want to thank you for your time. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.